welcome to Primetime Debate. I'm Tamanna. Bitcoin mania continues to grow in India and across the world, especially with news of huge price fluctuations in the cryptocurrency. Some have even described it as the new gold. But even as Indians continue to discover Bitcoins, there is no authority really regulating it. The Supreme Court has now sought a response from the Center on fixing guidelines on Bitcoins. This, of course, comes after a public interest litigation was filed asking for either the prohibition or regulation of Bitcoins. So to speak on these concerns, we're joined this evening by Satvik Vishwanath. He's co-founder and CEO of Unocoin, one of the many Bitcoin companies which have been flourishing. Thank you so much, Satvik, for speaking with Bloomberg Quint. I just want to get your view on this PIL and what the Supreme Court has said so far. It has given the center 4 weeks to come back with a regulation. So far, the Reserve Bank has said that it views Bitcoin with suspicion. SEBI does not regulate it. There is no law under which Bitcoin are bought and sold. Do you also agree that there is a desperate need for regulation, and in absence of that, perhaps a decision to prohibit the use of Bitcoin?
Yeah, so right now, Bitcoin is not yet categorized as an asset or a commodity or a foreign exchange or an equity, etc. Right? So, but different countries in the world have taken different views regarding the same. For example, Japan says it's a legal tender, while Germany says it's a private money, etc. But most of the rest of the world, they are not really able to classify, and the reason being the laws written in these countries are much old than the Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin came to existence only in 2009, but it is only making some noise since like 3-4 years, I would say. So right now, yeah, like you said, like the popularity has been increasing, the price of Bitcoin is increasing, and we keep seeing articles about Bitcoin every alternate day in media. Given this scenario, yeah, it's definitely be better if there is some kind of stance is given by the government of what exactly they see Bitcoin as, so that it just makes the view from a common citizen much more clearer.
And this petition claims, Satvik, and I don't know if there are any real figures or any tabulated data out there, but this petition at least claims that Bitcoin Exchange have been adding 2,500 users a day and has reached 5 lakh downloads. Do we have any clear picture of how many users you have in India?
Yeah, so I think that numbers are at least like 4 or 5 months old. So right now, I wouldn't be surprised even if it is 10,000 users a day. Because we, on our platform alone, we add close to 6,000 users a day. So given that probably the number of customers who have access to Bitcoin could be close to about 15 to 20 lakhs by now.
What are these people doing? Why are they buying Bitcoin? Are they looking at it as an investment? Do they understand what to do with it? What is the premise or the allure of this cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I think most of them are looking at it like an asset, because the price of Bitcoin has actually shown a good increasing trend over a period of time. Just this year alone, on January 2nd, it did break $1,000 mark, but it went up to 7,500, which is like 7.5 times just last week. So yeah, we have seen unmatched and never ever seen before kind of returns with Bitcoin. And because of this, again, more and more people are interested, and now institutional investors are getting into it, and there are banks who are interested across the world. So yeah, there is more interest.
I mean, we're just showing our viewers some information on how several countries have dealt with Bitcoin. China and Venezuela have cracked down. Russia may be on the route to it. Some countries are now looking at giving some recognition. But in India, Satvik, isn't it a risk? Because you don't know how the regulator is going to react. Reserve Bank has its reservations about Bitcoin. This petition says either regulate or prohibit. So people who are now buying Bitcoin or, maybe dealing with your company could be at risk. Your company could be at risk. You are outside the realm of law as of today.
No, we're definitely not outside the realm of law at all. See, I mean, we at UnoCoin see this as a software commodity, and it is sold and bought as a software commodity. So that's pretty much all it is right now. So now what we need is the proper categorization itself. So if you see, I mean, whenever the new technology comes, obviously the present laws will be much different. You will either need to amend them or add them or create a new regulator itself who can understand the space better. So yeah, I mean, if it is that we were doing it out of the law, probably we would have never seen the statement like, okay, we are watching the space. We have taken the wait and watch policies, and that's exactly how it has been. I mean, pretty much everywhere in the media, but to what the lawyer says or whatnot.
Absolutely. In fact, let's now get a view from the advocate who has moved the courts on the cryptocurrency and asking for clarification from the courts. I'm joined now by Dwaipayan Bhaumik. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Mr. Bhaumik. I see that you're joined by your other advocate friends who are perhaps engaged in this whole move for some kind of recognition to Bitcoin. I just want to understand something very simply. What do you want the courts to do? Because I went through your petition and you say either regulate or prohibit. Do you see a situation where the government may need to step in and say, let's not have Bitcoin?
No problem. No question.
Can you hear me, Mr. Bhaumik?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so my question to you is,
loud and clear.
Yeah, my question to you is that what was the purpose of your public interest litigation? Do you want the government to possibly prohibit Bitcoin because you say either regulate or prohibit? Do you see a scenario where there should be a prohibition?
No, actually the reason why we have filed is like we don't want government to prohibit it, but yes, we want some regulations should be there.
Okay. What are the
Just
concerns?
like there are a few countries who have regulated Bitcoin.
What are the concerns that you have, Bhaumik?
Yep, go ahead. As like right now, anyone can use Bitcoin. Any kind of illegal money can be transacted in Bitcoin, and as in cryptocurrency. So at this point of time, we want some regulation should be there. At the same time, we want tax legalized should be there.
Let me just take that point to Satvik. I have Satvik Vishwanath with me. He's co-founder and CEO of UnoCoin. And it's pretty interesting because, I'm speaking to Mr. Bhaumik on the other end, who has moved the courts for some regulation. And he says that we don't know who buys it, who transacts it. If you look through his petition, he's talking about the possibility of Bitcoin being used for criminal activities. Ransomware has been asked for to be bought in Bitcoin. Is that anonymity a problem, Mr. Satvik?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, because the Bitcoin transactions happen through something called Bitcoin address, which is like, looks like an email, for example. So unless you tell that it's your email ID, people cannot really identify it, right? So similar to that, the Bitcoin has an address through which you can do the transaction. But on the other side, I don't think it is like completely anonymous because again, when they are doing the transactions, you can actually trace a Bitcoin going from one address to another address. So that essentially means there is always a trail that is left on something called blockchain, which is an immutable ledger. So we have examples of when an agent who busted the Silk Road case, when he took some Bitcoins to do some favor, and then he got busted, and he is still in the prison today because Bitcoin, you cannot just do a transaction and get away easily with it. But when it comes to exchanges like us, so we call ourselves to be self-regulating. So where, like how the banks does, we take a copy of the PAN card and an address proof, and we take a phone verification before we provide an account to them. And we also make sure every transaction or every trade, whenever they buy and sell, is happening through their bank accounts. So we definitely know whom we are doing the trading with. And this is true pretty much everywhere in the rest of the world as well. So right now, I mean, anonymity wise, it's not that anonymous as we can technically think of.
No, it is, when you say it is not that anonymous, you're saying because you have decided to self-regulate. Now, something which aims to replace currency as we know it in the future, and that's what Bitcoin evangelists say, that in the future you'll be dealing only with Bitcoins and you bypass, other systems in place. Is it enough to say that, okay, coin, go and self-regulate?
I didn't exactly understand your question.
I'm saying that how safe is it just to leave it to companies to self-regulate?
Yeah, so it's a cautious decision that the companies take to have their own regulations and limits in place so that no one will misuse their services.
All right. Let me see if I can get one last question with Bhaumik in. What are you expecting from the courts and the government, Mr. Bhaumik? Do you have an idea in mind on the architecture you see for the regulation of Bitcoin?
Well, no, I'm not the architect, so the government is the right person, right people for the drawing the perhaps the diagram, and that's the reason we have knocked the door of the court. And I'm pretty sure that yes, the government is going to regulate it. Government will govern it. Sure.
Thanks so much for speaking with us, Mr. Bhaumik and Mr. Satvik Vishwanath. Bitcoin continues to engage a lot of interest in India. It's a novelty as of now, but something that the world is waking up to, and now there is a petition asking the Indian government and regulators to step in as well.
हम लोग टीम स्पिरिट से काम कर रहे हैं। ये सब रिले रेस है। अब मेरे हाथ में कमान है तो मुझे ही जवाब देना पड़ेगा, स्वाभाविक है। लेकिन कोई टेंशन नहीं है। सत्ता में तो बीजेपी की सरकार ही बनने वाली है, सब मान रहे हैं।
इस पे कोई ज्यादा डिबेट नहीं है।
लेकिन कितनी सीटें आएगी, वोट शेयर क्या रहेगा, उसकी चर्चा हो रही है। लेकिन मैं आपको बताऊं, जिस तरीके से यूपी में कोई मीडिया मान नहीं रहा था, सब लोग कह रहे थे कि किसी का सपोर्ट लेना पड़ेगा, और मायावती ने पहले कह दिया हम सपोर्ट नहीं देंगे। महंगाई नहीं था फिर भी कह दिया उन्होंने। उसी तरह से दूसरे दिन अखिलेश ने किया, जरूर पड़े तो हम मायावती के साथ बैठेंगे। फिर भी बीजेपी ने अकेले 325 सीट प्राप्त की। उसी तरीके से गुजरात में भी आप जरूर देखना 150 से ज़्यादा सीट आएगी। 3/4 मेजोरिटी से हम चुनाव जीतेंगे।
तो फिर मेरा ये इंटरप्रिटेशन सही होगा क्या सर, कि दरअसल बीजेपी की जो इलेक्शन मशीन है ना, वो इस तरह की है कि अगर जनमत थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे है भी, तो भी इलेक्टोरल मैनेजमेंट बहुत तगड़े ढंग से कर लो। और वो क्या है कि अगर एंटी बीजेपी वोट है तो वो एक जगह इकट्ठा ना पड़ें, उसके लिए वोट को बंटवाओ। बंटवाने की पॉलिटिक्स हर चुनाव में हर पार्टियां करती हैं, ये भी नया नहीं है। नया क्या है? नया है वाघेला साहब का प्रयोग, नया है प्रफुल्ल पटेल साल भर से घूम रहे हैं, अब एनसीपी के कैंडिडेट खड़े हो जाएं। नया होगा कि कांग्रेस के किसी व्यक्ति को टिकट ना मिले तो उसको टिकट दे देना। तो वोट काट करके वोट शेयर का मार्जिन मेंटेन करने पर आप लोगों का इस बार पर बहुत ज़्यादा ध्यान है।
नहीं है हमारा, हम तो पॉजिटिवली विकास के नाम पर हमारा शेयर बढ़ाने के लिए हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं। वाघेला वो अपना प्रॉब्लम है उनका, वो कांग्रेस उन्होंने जिस मुद्दे पर छोड़ी, कांग्रेस के नाराज होकर नई पार्टी बनाई। एनसीपी तो कांग्रेस के साथ ही है, वो क्या करे क्या नहीं वो कांग्रेस और उनके बीच का मामला है। कांग्रेस में जो लोग नाराज हो तो हम क्या करें इसमें? नेचुरली ये पॉलिटिक्स है तो कुछ ना कुछ इधर उधर होगा उसमें। लेकिन बीजेपी अपने बलबूते पर, अपने कार्यकर्ता के सहारे पर, जनता पर भरोसा रखते हुए, विश्वास रखते हुए मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं।
तो अगर आपकी बहुत अच्छी जीत 48% कम वोट शेयर से होती है, 57 था 2014 का, 48 रहा है विधानसभा चुनावों का एवरेज, 48, 38, 49, 37, इस तरह का 10% का गैप रहा है। अगर 10 से घट करके वो 8 हो जाए और फिर अपने को चिंतन मनन करना हो कि इसके लिए अपने फैक्टर क्या माने, जिम्मेदार फैक्टर कौन है, तो वो फैक्टर जिम्मेदार क्या होंगे?
नहीं, पहले तो सम्मति नहीं है। 55% से ज़्यादा वोट मिलेंगे और भारतीय जनता पार्टी 3/4 से ज़्यादा वोटों से हम जीतेंगे।
55% वोट शेयर सर आप प्रिडिक्ट कर रहे हैं और 150 सीट आप प्रिडिक्ट कर रहे हैं।
जरूर, 150 से ज़्यादा।
150 से ज़्यादा, यानी विपक्ष मुक्त गुजरात बनाएंगे आप?
ऐसा तो नहीं कह सकते क्योंकि 182 सीटें, लेकिन मैं मानता हूं कि कांग्रेस को जिस तरीके से पिछले 3 साल में जितने चुनाव हुए राहुल गांधी के नेतृत्व में, कांग्रेस को जनता ने उखाड़ कर फेंक दिया है, तो वही हाल गुजरात में भी होगा।
सर एक बहुत सच्ची बोलूं, इंटरेस्टिंग बात अगर कहूँ आपसे, राहुल गांधी के बारे में अपेक्षा कम हो गई थी उनके परफॉर्मेंस के कारण, चाहे जो भी। दरअसल बहुत सारे लोग ये बोल रहे हैं जो ये कहते हैं कि देखिए हम बीजेपी से खुश नहीं हैं, वोट मोदी जी को दे देंगे, रूपानी जी को दे देंगे, लेकिन राहुल थोड़ा सा प्रॉमिस शो कर रहे हैं। कुछ आंकड़े मैंने देखे आपके पास आने के पहले, मैंने थोड़ा सा स्टडी करने की कोशिश की, इस पर भी डिबेट हो सकती है। वो ये कि चैनलों की टीआरपी में गुजरात की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, राहुल पहले कहीं ठहरते नहीं थे, अब राहुल ने जंप मारा है और मोदी जी नंबर 1 है, लेकिन अब राहुल को टीआरपी मिल रही है गुजरात में। मैं टीवी के मेजरमेंट से बता रहा हूँ।
मैं आपको बताऊं कि अभी मोदी जी के दौरा नहीं हो रहा है, हमारे भी कोई लीडर का दौरा नहीं हो रहा है। 24 कलाक चैनल चला रहा है, सुबह से शाम तक राहुल ही चलता है, क्योंकि राहुल यहाँ गया, राहुल वहाँ गया, राहुल ने पापड़ा खाया, राहुल ने बच्चों के साथ हाथ मिलाया, ऐसी न्यूज़ चल रही है। तो नेचुरली लोग क्या करें वही देखें ना। तो इसका मतलब नहीं है कि लोगों को इंटरेस्ट है, लेकिन चल ही रहा है, पूरा दिन वही चल रहा है, तो इसमें क्या करें।
Imagine having your identity stolen. Imagine having to explain to banks and credit card companies that someone else has been opening accounts in your name. And at the end of it all, imagine having to prove you are you. For 3 years, Drew Armstrong, a US health team leader for Bloomberg News in New York City, has fought this battle against an impersonator. His experience becomes even more fascinating and relevant at a time when the debate over data safety in the context of Aadhaar in India rages on. Drew is joining us now from New York to tell us his experience and his story. Hi, Drew. Thank you so much for speaking with us this evening. You know, I was going through your piece where you talk about those 3 years. When was the first time you realized someone was impersonating you?
So the first indication that I got that anything was wrong was I got a call from a police detective in Florida, down thousands of miles away from me where I live in New York City. And they asked me if I had lived at any of these addresses there, and if I'd opened any accounts at these banks. And I told them no, and they said, well, sir, you know, you may be the victim of an identity theft ring down here, and asked me if I would be willing to testify in an eventual criminal trial in the courts here. That started me looking through my financial records with credit rating agencies and credit cards and banks to find out exactly what this person had done. And I uncovered this web of accounts and financial fraud that had been perpetrated in my name without my even knowing anything had gone on.
Drew, explain to me the process of then proving to authorities that you were not the person who was opening these accounts or using these credit cards or perpetrating these frauds. How much of a challenge was that?
It's an unbelievable challenge. And when something like this happens, it's particularly frustrating because it's almost easier for the person to do the fraud than it is for you to clean it up. And you know, I would have to send in records with everything from, you know, copies of my passport, of my driver's license, of other identity cards, past bank records, leases on apartments that I had lived in. I would send in dozens and dozens of pages of documents, of proof that I was who I said I was, just to get one account closed. And then I would have to repeat that process over and over again with every individual bank. Now, I understand why it's difficult. I mean, we have a financial system, certainly here in the U.S., that depends on people being able to loan, to borrow tens of thousands of dollars and to easily open up new accounts and everything like that. So it should be difficult to get out of owing that money. But when it's not you, and when identity theft becomes an increasing problem, as it has certainly here, then cleaning up the mess has become a massive headache. It took me almost 3 years of working on this for hours and hours and hours to eventually finally clean up most of the mess. And I'm still not sure that I've gotten everything. I mean, there may be things floating around out there that I don't know about.
Why is it so easy to steal someone's identity? Could you explain that for an Indian audience? You also talk in your piece about the massive hack of Equifax Inc. and talk about how there could be many Americans out there who are facing the same thing. But how can it be so easy?
Yeah, it's remarkably easy, and you don't need a lot of information to steal someone's identity and open financial accounts in their name in the U.S. Essentially, all you need is their name, their date of birth, and their social security number. That's the national identifier number that we use, that people use in this country as both a national ID number and also as a way of tracking government benefits and tax identification and things like that. A lot of other countries separate out their identifying systems, and so you don't have this one number that's kind of the quote-unquote keys to the kingdom to get these things. But here, once you have that social security number and maybe a date of birth and some other personal information like an address, all of which is pretty easy to obtain, you can open up just about any account you want. You can do it online. You can get a credit card mailed to a new address. You can walk into a bank with a fake ID that I think is relatively easy to obtain and go about doing these things. And you can do it very fast. This is, in some ways, a financial culture of convenience that we have here that makes it a lot easier for people to make financial transactions, and it makes them very fast and smooth, but also opens things up to a tremendous amount of fraud. You mentioned the Equifax hack. That was the hack that stole, from the companies that are supposed to be monitoring and really have all of that crucial information, stole millions and hundreds of millions of Americans' personal information. So that is now, that may be out there enabling these types of identity thefts for millions of more people. It is a huge issue that is unsolved here in the U.S.
Did you look back and try and diagnose where you may have slipped up and, given out a lot of your personal information? Did you go through that process, or do a lot of people try and, close the loop and protect themselves in some way? I still don't know exactly how they got my information, but the fact is that so many businesses and banks, health insurers, anybody that you've ever given your social security number to fill out a credit card application for medical care with your health insurer or at a hospital, to when you have gone to a bank to open up a new account, applying for college, that number that's the kind of, the thing that allows someone to steal is used so widely with so many different institutions, many of which have also been hacked. It's very easy for someone to steal. I have no idea how they got my information. It could have been off of a piece of mail that was thrown away. It could have been as part of a hack that was done at some point. It's hard to know where these things start, but we do know that huge amounts of this information and big databases of people's personal information are for sale online and by hackers. This is the kind of thing that's very easy for a criminal to obtain if they want to. Is there a systemic attempt to close these loops in the United States to make sure that more and more people don't get vulnerable, even though it may come at the cost of convenience? Is that process on in any fashion?
No, it's not at all on in any meaningful way. There are steps that consumers can take to protect themselves. all of those involve making it harder to open an account. You can do things called freezing your credit or putting a hold on your credit. What that essentially does is say, hey, to the banks and the credit rating agencies, don't open any new accounts in my name, period. That said, though, if you want to go out and you need to open a legitimate account or go get a loan for a car or for a house, then you also then have to go in and unlock that. There probably should be some sort of system to do essentially that, according to some of the security experts I've spoken to, but there is no such system in place that does that automatically in the US, and it doesn't appear that there is, despite all of these hacks and these major identity breaches, any attempt to create one.
Just one last question in the end, Drew, and your story is fascinating, it's scary. A lot of us wonder if our information there is safe. So just one last question for you. Did they finally get the guy?
They did, yes. He was arrested, I believe, in Florida, and made an agreement with the government to go to jail in January, and he is currently in prison. So that at least is a happy ending to this, but I still don't know if there's more that he might have done that I haven't discovered.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Drew Armstrong of Bloomberg News, sharing his story where his identity was stolen and he fought to claim his own identity back for 3 long years. Before we wrap up this edition of Primetime Debate, I just want to read out some of the views that all of you guys have sent in, especially on Bitcoin. So Anish Sharma has written in saying that Bitcoin needs to be legalized in India. Alok Kumar Varmado says it may make many bankrupt or become a currency for black market. Ayyappa Achappa says ban Bitcoin as it's taking people for a ride. The many others who say, so Rahul Kishore, for example, on Facebook says software commodity. How can you say that when it has no regulator? Who will ban it? A lot of views out there, a lot of interest in Bitcoin. Does it need rules? Probably yes, if we know that it's something safe to deal with. It's all the time we have this evening on Primetime Debate, but stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.